All right, everybody, welcome to the Leadership Mastermind podcast. I'm your host, Mitch Peak, and this is my co-host, Laura Brandeo. Hello, Laura.
Hello, Mitch. I am so excited for our guest today, and I want to jump right in and introduce everyone to Steve Sims. He is a best-selling author of BLUEFISHIng, The Art of Making Things Happen, and he has been quoted as being the real-life Wizard of Oz by Forbes and Entrepreneur Magazine. Steve is the founder of Bluefish, and he offers a VIP personal concierge service that has made dreams come true for clients, such as sending people down to see the wreck of the Titanic. He helped people gain access to closed museums in Florence for a private dinner party, and then have Andre Bocelli serenade them while they ate their pasta. Steve is a sought-after coach and speaker at a variety of networks, groups, associations, as well as the Pentagon and Harvard. He also does have his own podcast, The Art of Making Things Happen. Well, on the Leadership Mastermind podcast, we want to provide our audience with insights and perspectives from our industry experts so that they can learn, grow, and be inspired on being a leader to their clients and their teams. Okay, Mitch, let's jump right in.
All right, welcome, Steve. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
All right, that was a wonderful intro.
Hell of an intro, isn't it? I think they've got me confused with someone interesting.
All right, man. Well, we'll jump right in, and I'm going to ask you the big question. What are your three key pillars to leadership?
Oh, wow. My three key pillars. Well, the first thing that I like to look at as leadership is partnership. I think if you hover over too closely, you're not giving people the chance to make mistakes. And it's where people make mistakes that you really get to see the true talent and empowerment of someone. So my idea of leadership is to give people the bones and the crux of what I'm asking for, but to see how further they can take it. Okay, that's the first thing. I also look at leadership as focusing on the people that they're working with. Leadership is not about ego. A lot of people look at it as middle management, director, board status. It's about the people. You want to make your tribe, your community, your soldiers greater than you. That's the idea of leadership. Make them better as a group than you are on your own. And final thing about leadership being a pillar is to listen. Listen to hear how you can help them be a better source, help them be better tribe, help them be breed greater solidarity. So you've got to listen in order to be able to motivate the crowd to be a better people.
Great. Those are fantastic pillars. I want to dive into one specific to start off. Let's go into how to actually remove the ego component, because I think that is so important. Just as you said, a lot of times people think leadership is a title. Leadership is not a title. Leadership actually is something that you have to be a giver. You have to be ready to, like you said, put that other person first, allow that person to go past you, actually become better than you. So, Steve, how do we, as we're developing ourselves and others, how do we get people to kind of fold into that or learn to take that ego piece out of it?
Well, it comes from when you're trying to find the leaders. You know, when you interview a leader and you go, hey, what are you trying to get out of the next step of your career? If all of the answers are self-serving, then you know they're not a team player, because a lot of people look at leadership as removing themselves from the front line, removing themselves from the hard work, removing themselves from the hustle. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Being a good leader means you can stand up front. When you used to look at the old military, the captains would be the guys that led you into war. Now it's become the guys that sit in the box and go, right, go do your stuff, boys. And they're all safe in their armchair. True leadership is when you stand at the front and lead by example. So when you're talking to people and everything they say is self-serving, then for a start, don't pick that person. You can't retrain that mentality. Look at people that want to grow a tribe. Look at people that have something, as you quite rightly said, Laura, have something to give to the community, to the tribe, to the team, to the culture that can embellish them and make them grander, support them, invigorate, motivate them to be a greater source than the single person that's now got the pretty little business card.
Yeah, you make a great point. You know, when you watch like shows like Viking and, you know, all that, or the leader, no matter what it is, going into war, they're the first horse in line, you know, going to battle. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, and that's always the way it would be. You knew who you could follow. And bear in mind, even by definition of the word follow, the leader would go, you would follow. Now we're in a situation where we're being taught to go forward. You can't go forward by following somebody. So you've really got to get it into the context of what it is. Lead by example and lead by vision, lead by passion, and get people. That's why Steve Jobs built the culture he did behind Apple, because he had a vision and he led from the front seat, and people bought into that culture and supported Apple into a greater cult than he could have ever made it on his own.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, okay. So now I want to hear about bluefish and bluefishing and all of this. Okay. All right. I have to hear, where did it start? Take us back to the beginning. I need to understand where that all happened.
It was an excuse.
Okay.
There's your answer. It was a Trojan horse. It was an excuse. As I was kicked out of school at the age of 15, working on a building site, no future, no hope. This was in the 80s, so I didn't have Instagram to tell me how inadequate my life was. I just had something in me that went, hang on, why am I poor? I've heard of these rich people, even though I've never seen them. I've heard about them. What do they do that's different to me? Now, I knew I was quite happy, well, not happy, but quite willing to work for it. But how come they have it and I don't? Where's my opportunity? So I went out to try and meet rich people. I literally started hanging out in bars, hotel lobbies, anywhere, car dealerships, anywhere where there was affluent people. And I would watch them. You know, how do you communicate with each other? How do you negotiate? How do you talk? How do you breathe, think, solve? And along the way, I knew that I had to get into that world. So I could get into that world by providing them something. I could have been a realtor to high-end homes. I could have been a yacht salesman. I could have been a jet charter salesman. I could have been any one of those things. But because I was a doorman of a nightclub, I just happened to know where all the best clubs were. So it started from there. But I started getting people into parties. Then I started throwing my own parties. And then I started working with some of the biggest parties in the world, like the New York Fashion Week, the Grammys, Sir Elton John's Oscar party. All along, the only reason I was ever doing it was to be able to associate and be in a room of movers and shakers, of billionaires, of people that own things like countries. And along the way, I used to have these silly little passwords to be able to get into things. And one of them was the Dr. Seuss poem, One Fish, Two Fish, Red Fish. And I would say, finish that poem to get into this party. So people would walk up and go, bluefish. And that's how it started. But
I love that.
It became one of the world's largest experiential concierge firms, but it never was supposed to be. It was never, we never had a business plan, never had a process, never had a thought. It was literally, how can I get in a room with Elon Musk? How can I get in a room with Sir Elton John? How can I get in a room with Richard Branson? And how can I get in a room with people that you've never heard of that are actually far wealthier than them, kings, queens, tsars? How can I get into those rooms? And that's why I did what I did. And then I came out of it about 3 years ago, wrote the book, and now I work with entrepreneurs to teach them how to do it.
I absolutely love it. And, I love the concept that you have that, no one's unapproachable as long as you have the right connections. And, that's kind of the concept that I've followed with what I'm doing is, kind of what you taught us is, there all people. They're all human. They all breathe. They all do the same stuff we do. And there's no reason why you can't, go ask someone for something if you have something to provide them in return.
A solution. Everyone wants a solution. Everybody in the planet wants a solution to something. It could be how to keep your car clean. It could be how to mow your lawn. It could be how you lose weight. Anyone in the planet you can have a conversation with, as long as the first thing you can identify is what problem do they have. I've gone up to people, billionaires, and I've gone, hey, I believe you're part of this foundation. I've got an idea how we could get bigger donators to come to the event. I've got an idea how we could get more people to be aware of your book. I've got an idea how we could get more people to be aware of the charity you support. If you turn up with a solution, you get into a conversation because you're turning up with value.
That's a basic principle, right? Seems so basic, but yet so extremely valuable. So my question about all of that is, okay, it started as an excuse. You wanted to get close. You wanted to get into their thinking. You wanted to understand. So I'm curious, what were some of the things you learned?
Wow. Biggest thing that I ever learned, and I was stood in a room. It was in Monaco, and there were some very powerful people there. And I noticed I was in a room full of failures. And that was the first thing that kind of shook me. I can vividly tell you where I was, the bar that I was at, and even I can't mention who I was with, but I mentioned it earlier. And I suddenly realized I'm surrounded by failures here, because it was in the late 90s. It was during all of the kind of like tech growth. So there was a lot of tech people there. There was a lot of actors there. There were a lot of musicians there. At the time, the rock stars were literally musicians. If you look at rock stars now, you're looking at Elon Musk, as an icon and a rock star. But back then, we all looked up to the movie stars and the musicians rather than the business folk that we do now. So I realized that all of the people here had failed. Every single one of them had failed. And I actually ended up challenging my concept by speaking to them and starting the conversation with, well, how many mistakes have you made? How many failures have you had? How rough was it for you to get here? I didn't want to go, how successful are you? Yeah. How many screw-ups did you make, my friend? And I would literally ask that very bluntly. And, every single one of them was open to the revelation of what it was. And I realized that successful people make more mistakes than non-successful people. And the big difference is the mistakes and failures that they make, refine them and do not define them. It's the entrepreneur that tries something, goes, ouch, that didn't work. I'm not doing that anymore. And then they run for the hills or to see what they can binge watch on Netflix. But the successful person is the one that goes, well, shit, that didn't work. And they lean into the problem. Why didn't it work? What went wrong? See, I had a client of mine, if I may give you a quick story. Yeah. I had a client of mine that was flying into LA, and I live in Los Angeles. And he said, hey, I've got this proposal that I'm doing with this big company, and they're actually flying me in to give the pitch. Now, no one ever pays for you to fly in. They tell you to come in off your own dime. But they were flying him in to hear this pitch. He said, I want you to come with me. And I said, well, I don't know how I can come with you. He said, oh, I'll pretend you're my driver. And I said, no one takes that driver into a business meeting. And I'm too ugly to be a secretary. And he's like, well, I'll
bodyguard. You're the bodyguard.
I'm the bodyguard. He's like, I'll work it out, but I need you to be in that meeting with me. And I'm like, fine. So I put a suit on and I turned up. And again, as Mitch said, I pretended to be like the driver / bodyguard. Why the hell this guy would need a bodyguard? No one knows. But anyway, so I go and sit in the corner and he goes about his pitch. Now, in the room, he had all of the directors, not some of them, not a few of them, no middle management, all the directors. And then at a point of the presentation, the chairman came in to shake his hand, had a couple of chats with him, laid it back over to the directors and left the room. And at the end of the pitch, They said to him, thank you very much. And he left. And he found out a week later, he didn't get the deal. Okay. He was pissed. He was like, I didn't get the deal. That was a waste of time. That was useless. That's not going anywhere. Oh my God, I wasted a day of my life. Everything went wrong there. And he had this call with me. And okay, you want to throw a pity party when things don't go right? Knock yourself out. Get the balloons. That's fine. But then for Christ's sake, get over it. And I said to him, so everything went wrong? And he went, yeah, that was a complete waste of time. I said, well, I beg to differ. You were so good on a phone and an email that you caught the attention of the company. So much so, they paid for you to fly out here. And when you went into the room, you weren't in the room of the arse lickers. You were in the room of the decision makers. It was that exciting what you had to offer, that you had the people in the room that could make the decision, not those people that would then channel the information back up. The decision makers, including the chairman. So before you start kind of like, throwing yourself a pity parade, ask yourself, where did you lose it? Where did it go wrong? And he said, well, how do I do that? I said, you ask. I've just told you. Ask yourself, but also ask them. Give them a phone call and say, look, thank you very much for your time. I respect your decision, but I'm really curious, where did I lose you? So he made that phone call, and he made the call to one of the ladies that was one of the directors. And she said, it was all great. And we never reversed the decision. So the information I'm giving you, we can't go back. And he's like, hey, I'm not looking to get back into the room. I'm just curious for my future growth, where I lost you. And she said, and she turned around, she said it was 3:15 in the afternoon. She was that exact. And he said, what happened? And he said, well, I'll tell you what happened. You started to talk about the process of payment. And then you told us your payment schedule. Most large companies have their own payment schedule. At the beginning of the year for some companies, that's all their marketing budget. At the end of the year for other companies, that's their marketing budget. We budget within a certain framework, and you were now stood there telling us your parameters, and they didn't fit with our parameters. And he went, thank you so much. I appreciate it. He then did another proposal, a local one to him. So he didn't fly. I didn't go to it. But he said to me that when I got to that part of the process, I said, hey, I'm glad you're enjoying where we are. And I want to run through with you what the payment infrastructure. And he said, because I knew where the problem was, I physically saw everyone start to clamp up in their seat because they knew this was the moment of the close. He said, so I switched it. He said, I'd like to go over with your payment, what the payment structure is. It's what works for you. I will work within your constraints and how you budget in order to make this work the best for you. He said, and they literally all just relaxed back in their seat, looked at each other, it went on, and he got the deal. He thanked the lady that gave him the information. She left the company that she was actually working with at the time, like 3 months later, went and worked for a competitor, brought him into that competitor, and he did the deal there. So the bottom line of it is, if he had been successful and got that first deal, he'd have never analyzed where he lost it. Because he lost it and then analyzed where it went wrong, he got it twice. So most people actually run away from where things go wrong, yet the really successful people lean into where it went wrong as the education on how to not replicate it next time.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people have that trouble with making that call, calling her and saying, hey, where did I screw up? They're afraid of that answer. And that's, a strong thing.
Why would you be frightened of the answer that's going to help you?
Right.
I've never understood that. People out there, they think they're smart and they're dumb as dishwater. if you can actually ask someone, how can I be more successful? How can I close more deals? If I said to you, there's a hotline that's going to open up at 3:00 this afternoon, and if you call the person, you're going to have Jeff Bezos on the other end of the phone telling you how to launch an online business. Who would not make that phone call?
Right.
But so many people are actually terrified, and they're terrified into paralysis, and nothing's good ever comes out of paralysis.
That's right. Well, I think you have to have confidence in yourself in order to be able to do it. You know, people always say, I want this level, I want the next thing, I want everything, but yet they're so scared to push themselves into that level of, oh my gosh, you know, someone might say something negative to me or might hurt my feelings. But at the end of the day, if you want to be at that level, you better be ready to have a little bit of a hurt feeling, because it's not always going to be rainbows and unicorns and sunshine. It's just the way it is.
I was walking through SpaceX, and I apologize for the name drop. I was walking through SpaceX with Elon Musk, and I had a client with me that was to my left that I had introduced to them briefly, and he was like a little girl at a Justin Bieber concert. He was so jittery that he's with Elon Musk. He was trying to get Elon involved in a conversation, and Elon's not a chatty guy, all right? And the guy was like, oh, so what about this? And what about that? And he was getting a bit silly. And he said to him, and this was just before NASA took on SpaceX as a partner, okay? And he turned around to Elon and he said, oh, how do you feel about NASA publicly laughing at you and humiliating you? Now, this was at the time when NASA openly used to say, there's no room in the space industry for civilians playing. That's what they used to say about Elon Musk. Now, let's be blunt, nothing would be going up there if it wasn't for Elon, okay? NASA take a little bit of the credit, but trust me, it's all Elon. So when they said that to Elon, Elon didn't even look at him. He just turned around and said, they always laugh a few seconds before they applaud. Now, the big difference, you just talked about emotions and feelings, okay? That's not in the conversation, okay? If you're trying to do something that's helping somebody else and you're trying to provide a solution that's benefiting, I don't care if you're trying to offer someone a mortgage rate, if you're trying to sell them a home, if you're trying to set them up a data protection package, whatever you're trying to do should be solving them a problem. If they say no, before you get all kind of like, upset and look for your pity, turn around and go, well, why? Yeah. I'm trying to help you here, and you've just declined this solution to your problem. Why? You should not. You should take your feelings and your emotions out of it and focus on the client.
Yep.
That way you'll always save the deal.
One thing you brought up that I'm interested in hearing more about is partnership and leadership. That has a good ring to it. So tell me a little bit more about that.
So, as you know, I coach. And I think too many people in the coaching and the leadership world think that puts them on a different pedestal. They think that, okay, I'm a coach, I'm a leader, therefore I'm in this chair and you're down there, okay? The second you become a leader and a coach, that's where you actually move in closer to the people you're dealing with, and you get shoulder to shoulder and go, look, I've got experience. That's why I've got, the paycheck and the title and the business card, but you've got the energy and the potential. So together we can conquer, and that's where leadership coaching becomes a partnership. When you're a soldier, you're taught the skills you'll need to react to someone given the control. The person in control looks at you as the asset. Understand that. You are the asset. Without you, the leader's got nothing to do. Absolutely nothing. And the company directors are broke without you as the asset. So the second they get into that position, that's where they actually should bond closer to you. That's when they should listen more to you. And that's where they should be shoulder to shoulder in the trenches as a partner.
Yep, absolutely. So, you came into the mortgage space a few years ago. Okay.
Yeah.
And, you know, obviously you were doing other things and you were introduced to our space within the last few years. I'm curious, what are some of the opinions that you have formed based on the mortgage and real estate world of what you see from our industry?
Well, the past 2.5 years have been quite traumatic, you know, and there's been a lot of, you can't make this stuff up. If someone spoke about the last 3 to 4 years, you'd be like, yeah, but you'd never do a movie if someone talked about the politics, the riots, the pandemic. You know, you'd be like, oh yeah, shut up, you're dreaming. It's been a wild ride. And I've noticed that there are a few people, or should I say a few kind of forces that are at play in the industry. There are those that are going, hey, we're going somewhere. And they're looking to see how they can have technology work for them, how they can use their voice, how they can use the social platforms, how they can grow their business, okay, to solve the client's needs. And then you've got the old school that are kind of like, well, we've always done it this way. And that's how we're always going.
I've been doing that for 25 years and it always worked.
You can't tell me, Johnny, I've been doing this for 57 years now. We've all got those. I had it when I worked in the travel industry, and I've got it now in the mortgage industry. And do you know the funny thing is, and the conversations you have with these people, you don't. The bottom line of it is they're sitting there and they're going, well, I don't need these newfangled things called text lines. I don't need to do videos on my feeds. I don't need to do live walkthroughs. I don't need to do 360 camera interaction of the inside of the house. I've never done it before. Fine. Knock yourself out. Okay. If you think you're wrong, you know, you're right. And these people here think that there's nothing wrong with what they're doing. But it's the new guard. And here's the funny thing about it. You'd think that the new guard were the youngsters. No, the new guard are those that can see the difference. I'm going to pick on people like Bill Hart. Bill, I love you, but you ain't 18 years old, okay? Bill can see the changes that are needed in the industry. Todd Bookspan, Dave Savage. These are people that can see changes in the industry and are grabbing them, utilizing them, and benefiting from them. The old school, look, they're going to move on, okay? Leave them alone. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. But the new brigade, funny enough, are age irrelevant, but have just decided and noticed, hang on a minute, there's something here, not that I have to learn, because people don't like to learn things, okay? You know, if I said to you, oh, you can do it, you've got to learn this. You don't want to do it. We just naturally just don't want to do it. But if I show you something that can help you quadruple your business, but lower your actual energy required to do it, now you're excited because we're leading with a benefit, okay? So those people that I've just mentioned are utilizing technology, communication in order to amplify their message, their tone, their solution. And they're using all of the new stuff. And when you start looking at all of this new stuff, it makes you go, okay, what's next? What's next? What's next? And it trains your mind to adapt. So every time a new thing comes along, like TikTok, Clubhouse, all of these things, you're prepared. You know, you're already trained to go, right, it's a new thing. How could this benefit me? So those are the new school, and those are the people. When I go to a mortgage camp, and when I'm on stages and I'm doing real estate and I'm doing mortgage, you literally can see people in the audience going, what does this guy know? You know, oh my God, you know, I'm not going to be, you want me to do what with a text phone? You want me to do, you think I'm going, yeah, this guy doesn't know it. You can see them. And then you can see the rest of the room going, hang on a minute, why don't I do that? And those are the people I'm talking to.
It's with the TikTok.
Yeah, right. But you know, you just brought me back. I was at a conference in 2019, and the speaker got on the stage, and he literally said, "Okay, mortgage people." I mean, it was probably 2,000 people in the room, and he said, "Okay, mortgage people, I have a question. How many people in this audience plan on retiring in the next 5 to 10 years?" And like everybody's like looking around, like, you know, and no one raised their hand. Everyone was like, nah, I'm doing this, right? And he's like, great. Because if you don't do the things I'm about to tell you, you're not going to survive our industry for the next 5 to 10 years. So you had better listen up. So just like you just said, Steve, I mean, it's a perfect example, right? So you can keep doing what you've always done, and maybe that worked, but this is changing. And it's changing for the better. I mean, this is a good thing. We're in a mode of, you know,
and it's changing
really
quick.
Yeah. Oh, well, the pandemic sped some of it up. You know, it really made that you had better be comfortable with video, and you had better be comfortable on social. And Mitch, maybe, you know, let's dive into some things about branding and social and some of that, because it is so important in our industry.
Yeah, you know, like I was saying with the TikTok, everybody was like, TikTok, that's for, you know, teenage kids to messes around with. And then, you know, you got a couple people that started playing with it as loan officers and, you know, real estate agents. And then suddenly they're like coming back to their peers and like, holy cow, you know, I'm blowing this thing up and I'm getting leads. And then people are like, how are you even thinking about getting leads from TikTok of all places? And, you know, it's the same thing with Clubhouse. I mean, I've seen people with Clubhouse, you know, they're just blowing up. They've got more followers on Clubhouse now than they've had in the last 5 years with Instagram, you know, and they're getting clients, they're getting referrals. I mean, it's a boom. So tell us, you know, what you think about, you know, the Clubhouse, the TikTok and that kind of stuff and branding.
Wow, that's actually a deeper question than you realize you've just asked. So let's go for the first bit. Let's focus on the social. Okay. You know, we saw TikTok explode. And then we saw the potential of TikTok go away, you know, when there was the talk of it actually being banned from the US. And we saw the growth of Triller. If no one's used Triller and TikTok, exactly the same thing. And then all of a sudden, 5 minutes ago, we heard Clubhouse, okay? And everyone's like, oh my God, what's Clubhouse? I've got to get on the Clubhouse. How much does it cost to be a member of any one of those platforms? Laura, how much?
Nothing.
Bingo. So why aren't you doing it? You know, if I said to you, I've got this CRM program and it's only $1,500, there's a cost. If it fails, you're out by $1,500. I join every social platform that's ever come up. Do you know, and this is true, there's just under 400 social platforms in the world. Just under 400. And we can only name 5 or 6. LinkedIn, TikTok. People are out there now going, Triller? I've never heard of Triller. But we had Parler. We had MeWe. We got so many different pop up and then go and fizzle out. All you have to do is the second it appears, and if there was a social platform that opened up tomorrow called Bingo, I would join it less than 3 nanoseconds. I would register my username, Steve D. Sims. Tip of the day, guys. Make a note of this. Every single one of your social icon names needs to be the exact same. I am Steve D. Sims everywhere because I don't want to be lost. Okay? So if Bingo opens up tomorrow, I'm going to jump on, as Laura said, for free. I'm going to grab my username. And then to be honest with you, I'm probably just going to sit back for a couple of weeks and see how it does. I jumped on Parler. I jumped on MeWe. Never posted a damn thing. Okay? Jumped on Clubhouse. Didn't post anything for a couple of weeks. Then it took off. Then I jumped on. And I think I'm at like about $2,500 or something like that. People following me on there. The bottom line of it is it costs you nothing but 10 minutes of your time while your coffee's cooling down. So do not miss out on any opportunity to be phenomenal because, as Mitch just said, the platforms change. Now, Facebook came out, and if you remember, you know, it was for kids. It was for college kids. And what is it now? It's the largest business search directory in the planet. Okay? But it started off as a kids. What will therefore TikTok become? What will Clubhouse become? Don't know. But I do know I'm not going to miss out on the potential, and it costs me nothing. It's not like saying, hey, you've got to buy this stock. You've got no financial commitment whatsoever other than the 2 minutes it takes to register your name. So register your username. Secondly, branding. By putting your username in there, and if there's any ability to put a bio in there, go onto your other social feed, copy and paste that bio and stick that same bio in there. Why? Because Nike and Apple is the exact same on any platform you're on. But for some reason, you think your bio in LinkedIn has to be really professional and then you can be slutty on Facebook. Okay? No, you're the exact same. Give you an example. If you turn around to your mates tonight and you go, hey, let's watch the news at 6 o'clock tonight. And you all tune into the news. And the following day you go, oh, did you see the news last night? Yeah, I did. Did you see this about Trump? Did you see this about Biden? Did you see this about Bitcoin? Did you see? Yes, I saw it. What station were you on? Oh, I was on CNN. I was on CNBC. I was on ABC. I was on KTLA. I was on NBC. See, the bottom line of it is these platforms are nothing more than the source of consumption. The news is exactly the same. Therefore, your bio should be exactly the same on every single platform. And a bio makes sure that you are, write this down, easy to understand is different to impossible to misunderstand. And by replicating your bio, you are now moving into the impossible to misunderstand or mistake. So if you look at branding, the first thing you've got to do is remove confusion out of any one of your comments, out of any one of your attempts to market, and provide clarity. You see, branding has nothing to do with you. You see, branding is what someone says about you when you've left the room. Now, if I sit here and I start talking to you about my new line of hair products that I'm releasing, which would be funny, along with the diet tablets, if I start talking to you about those, and then we finish this call, and you two get together and start talking about me and my book, okay, then I've missed the point.
Yep.
I'm trying to promote my hair products. You're focused on the book, and the person that hears your conversation will walk away going, well, Steve Sims, he's an author. Not, he's got a line of hair products. I don't have a line of hair products, but the bottom line of it is, remember, the branding is only valuable from the recipient's mouth to the next person. So make sure your message is so uniform that it's hard for them to confuse and get wrong. Truly, open up your social feeds this afternoon, look up your bios and see if they're different.
It's kind of like the meme that was going around, last year of, this is your LinkedIn face, this is your Facebook face, this is your Instagram, and and it goes on, and you're like, well,
it's very true. And it is very true. And you also touched on about being everywhere. And I agree with you that you have to have that consistency, and you should make sure you have your username, your profile everywhere. But some people say, and I want your opinion about this, some people say you should pick certain platforms to really dive into and really focus your attention there, because sometimes it's hard to be everywhere and give adequate time and attention and content to every place. So what are your thoughts on that when it comes to social?
So Laura, can you give me the winning numbers for this Saturday's lotto?
I cannot.
Can you tell me which one of my social platforms is going to work better for me than the other one?
No, I cannot predict any future,
right.
but they say, some people say that you should focus your attention and grow an audience specifically in one social or two social platforms, because otherwise it's impossible to kind of spread yourself across them all.
All right. Okay. Well, I know I can't say the word bullshit because that would be rude on this show. So we'll think of another word that we can term up. The bottom line of it is you have no idea. Again, remember the news that we were talking about. All social platforms are nothing more than sources of consumption. You have no idea if more people are going to love you on LinkedIn than you do on Facebook. So what do? Whatever you post on Facebook, you copy and post the exact same on LinkedIn. You see, I post, sometimes I'll post 3 times a day if there's something going on. Sometimes I won't post for, 3 days. But whatever I post, I will get the picture, I will get my text, I will post it on Facebook, copy Instagram, copy Twitter, copy LinkedIn, copy. I will just do that. And it takes me seconds to just go copy, copy, copy. And I will post it across all platforms. Okay. And then what will happen is I will just check during the day or the following day which one's getting comments. And I suddenly may find that on Facebook, it's taken off. It's been shared. I'm getting more interaction. And I will jump into that conversation. Okay. And I'll look on LinkedIn and it's crickets. Okay. And then the following few days, there may be another thing that I post and I'll post it up there and I'll go copy, copy, copy. And on Facebook, hey, I got 3 likes and 1 dirty comment. And on LinkedIn, it's exploded. So I will jump into the conversation. So the answer is, don't worry about the platform. Worry about the conversation.
Okay.
Now, I've already said, whatever you post, copy across all platforms, and then just see where it's being consumed.
Yeah, because you never know from day to day what platform is going to consume what. Like you said, Facebook could be hot for, one topic, and LinkedIn, you got another topic, the next day that's, where it's taking all your attention.
You have no idea. And that's the beautiful thing about it. We're all fishing, and the internet is still, even though it's been around for a few days, it's still the bloody wild, wild west. And you have no idea. You have no idea if Twitter and Facebook, with its recent interaction with politics, is going to be the death of it. We have no idea if Clubhouse will buy Facebook and change. We have no idea what's going on. So understand, whatever you're doing today is temporary. And whatever you're doing today, optimize it for today and adapt for tomorrow. So don't try to guess your lottery number. If you are 100% guaranteed you know the answer, then sell your house, plow the money into there, and retire the following day. But the bottom line of it is just be aware, and be ready to accept the conversation.
Great.
All right, you mentioned fishing, so this leads into my next question for you. So tell me about your book. First of all, I love it. I got the hard copy and the audio version, which is great. So tell me a little bit about the book, but tell me how it came about. When did you decide, and how did you decide to become an author?
So anyone out there that's thinking of being an author or is trying to be an author at the moment is about 3 nanoseconds off of absolutely hating me. I was in a party in New York, and as I said to you before, I always tried to make sure I was in the right room. Very, very early on, I had this saying, and my saying was, you are the room you're in. So I always tried to make sure I was in the room of, achievers and go-getters and hustlers. That's the room I wanted to be in. And I was in the room in New York through a very bad snowstorm. And a fella that I knew introduced me to this lady, and he told her a story. She came home and she went, this story can't be true. And I can't remember which one it was about, but it was about one of the experiences that I had created. And I told her the story, and then she went off and she came back with someone else, and I told her a different story. And I'm getting bought drinks, so I didn't care. And she then turned around and she said, well, we work for a major New York publishing house. You should write a book naming all of the famous people that you deal with. And I said, no, I'd like to stay alive. If I named all the people I work with, I'd be dead by cocktail hour. And they were like, oh, okay. And they went away. That was the end of it. And then a week later, they contacted me and they'd seen some of the speaking gigs that I had done. And they found one on YouTube. And they went, hang on a minute. You didn't come from Ivy League, yet you've lectured at Harvard twice. You know, you were kicked out of school at the age of 15, and you're now doing this with the Vatican. Why don't we do a book on how that happens without naming names? And I went, sure. And I did it for two reasons, both of them selfish. Well, three of them, all three of them selfish. One, I got offered a boatload of money. Okay. I liked that one. Two, my kids always laugh at me because I get to do these amazing things, but I'm still just a thickhead that rides around on motorcycles and drinks whiskey, and they don't know how I get away with the stuff that I did. And they know that I can't write anything. I've chatted with Mitch before by email, and he'll tell you I can't write for shit. So the idea that I could write a book, I would be able to laugh at my kids about until my dying days. So that was my second selfish reason. My third selfish reason was I wanted to interrupt people. I wanted to aggravate them. I wanted them to realize that, hang on a minute, I've been focusing on doing this, yet all he does is this. And I wanted to be able to reveal to people that, hey, if a bricklayer from London can be doing this with Elon Musk and the Pope, you're already out of excuses. So my third selfish reason was to create people to do actions and therefore create a world that I wanted to live in. So all three reasons were completely selfish. And when the book came out, I didn't even have a website. I didn't think it would take off. I didn't think people would believe it. I didn't think it would get anywhere. I thought we'll sell 3 copies. 2 of them would be bought by my mum. That'd be it. And it kind of didn't go that way. We've been a bestseller basically all over the planet. We've been released in Mandarin Chinese, Thai, Vietnamese, and Korean. It sold out in 2 hours in Poland. And now it's being translated into Russian. And as you guys know, I went from doing maybe 3 speaking gigs a year to doing like 25 in a year. So awesome. It's had me literally doing speaking gigs in Thailand and in, Chicago. So just all over the planet.
Now, if this is being released in Russia, they're probably just going to think this is their grandpa because, that stuff they do over there, they do wild things in Russia. It's not a normal situation.
Yeah. I got a few Russian and Ukrainian clients, and it's an interesting mindset. But I didn't know the book was going to take hold. But I remember, for anyone out there looking at doing a book, understand that you may breed and give birth to the monster, but once you release it out there, you've got to feed it and you've got to put up with the impact it makes. And I wasn't aware of that. I wasn't aware of Mitch reaching out to me. I wasn't prepared for people coming to me going, hey, we need you to speak. I wasn't prepared for the mortgage industry to throw its arms open and go, hey, we help people get homes. Come and chat with us. And I'm like, are you kidding? Why do you want? I remember walking on like Todd Duncan's stage or Stephen Marshall's or opening up for Fairway or Guild. And everyone's there in their suits. And I'm there, as Mitch would tell you, in my black T-shirt and jeans and me knackered old Vans. I've got new Vans now. I've splashed out on new Vans. But, I'm stood there and they're all kind of like, how can we do better? And I didn't realize until I started that we all needed one thing, the ability to communicate with someone else.
Yeah.
And once you actually break it down to what we do, we solve someone else's problem. Mm-hmm. And to solve someone else's problem, we've got to communicate with someone and understand what it is. And so when you actually break it down to its raw fundamental, that got me teaching in Harvard, the Pentagon, and on mortgage and real estate stages all over the planet. So it was quite astonishing.
That's great. And before we went live, we were speaking about your speakeasy events. So I want to actually hear what goes on at a speakeasy event. I want to hear about that.
So yeah, I've got to tell you how it started. I had an argument with my daughter. My daughter was 17 years old, and if anyone knows anything about 17-year-old girls, it's basically Satan. And
there's a lot happening there, Steve.
Oh, very good. Look, Mitch knows me. I'm a big guy. I'll go toe to toe with anyone, and I'll be fine. But a hormonal teenage girl, I want nothing to do with. And it was coming up to my birthday, and I just thought to myself, I don't want her to be two-faced on my birthday and go, "I love you, Dad, but I'd prefer if you died," because that was the kind of conversations we were having, or the ethos behind it. So I literally, and Jay Abraham said to me, I have a greater ICANN than an IQ. I do, and then think about it. Sometimes that gets me into trouble, quite a lot. But this time I thought to myself, let me try something. And I went on Facebook and I went, look, I got to get out of the house. Who wants to spend 2 days with me? And I'll tell you anything you need to know. $2,000. That was it. And I remember putting, because I thought it was stupid, I remember putting a PayPal link on there on Facebook, and that was it. And I got about 8 people sign up. And I remember we didn't have a city. We didn't say anything. We didn't have anything, And I contacted him and I was like, using Mitch as an example, I was like, Mitch, you just paid me $2,000. And I remember this. I was like, what's your problem? And I said it meaning, are you mentally ill? I meant it as a sarcastic joke. And I remember vividly saying this to the person that paid me $2,000. But the answer I got back was different.
Okay. And
they were like, glad you asked, Steve. I'm having trouble with this. And I got what that problem was. And then the next person I phoned up, I went, hey, you've paid $2,000. You haven't committed. I haven't accepted it yet because I hadn't pulled it out of PayPal. I said, I'd like to know, what problem was it that caused you to sign up? So I tweaked the question.
Right.
And I got the problem again. So then what I did was I got all of these people's problems. I reached out to some people that I know, and I got a pretty decent Rolodex. And I got people to come in to be speakers and trainers to answer their problems.
Got it.
Because we all go to events because Tony Robbins is there, Grant Cardone's there. We all go to these events because of these names. And there'll be 2 people that we want to hear from, and the rest of them are kind of like, who are you?
Right.
But if you've got a problem and I give you someone to answer your problem, I've now created a solution for you. Okay? So I did it once. And because I didn't have a name, I also didn't have a location because I didn't know how many people would turn up. The first one we did, we ended up with about 22 people.
Wow.
Which I was like, are you kidding? And it grew. And we've been doing this for 3 years now. So we've done, I think, 11. And we grew to 60 people, all paying $2,000, not knowing what was going to happen. We do state the dates and we do state the city now, because the next one's on the 10th and 11th of February in Scottsdale. And it's literally just at simsspeakeasy.com. But that's all the information. And then we contact you and we go, what's your problem? So it's the reverse engineering of a mastermind. But one of the guys turning up, and it was a guy that said it, he said, God, this is so cool. We don't know who's going to be there. We don't know where it is. This is like a speakeasy. And I was like, you're right. You're right. So you haven't got to know all the answers. You've just got to be willing to accept them. And when he said that, I was like, that's
there
it.
There you go.
We are now a speakeasy. So I grabbed the URL, simspeakeasy.com, and they are all now Speakeasy San Diego, Speakeasy Scottsdale. And so that's what we do. We channel around. We charge $2,000. We give you 2 dates. We give you the city. We give you the location 1 week before. We set you up in a hotel so we know you're local to where we're going to be without telling you where you're going to be. But we ask every single attendee, what's your problem? and then we get, and if we can't answer your problem, and this has happened, we've gone, do you know, we're not going to have the people at this event that's going to answer your problem, but we are for the next one. So can I suggest you actually move that over? I can even refund you and you can come back later, but I would suggest you go to that one because that's going to have the person you need. And we've had the head of Victoria's Secrets and Ralph Lauren. We've had Jim Quick, the Mind Mastermind. We've had Bradley. We've had so many incredible people, Ken Cragen, Jay Abraham, so many incredible people turn up to answer your problem rather than just stand there and go, look at me, I'm wonderful, now clap.
That's awesome.
It's not all about just solving the problems either. It's about the experience, right? I mean, you give these people an experience that they walk away from and I guess a relationship that they form and bond with the others that are there from what I've seen.
Yeah, well, you think about it. So we max it out of 40 people now because we find that 40 is a large enough but intimate crowd, okay? And what we do is you think about it, everyone that's in that room has no idea who they're going to meet. So they're already in that kind of like, who's going to be there? So you create a bond of being uncomfortable. And then we create an experience that collectively you can share. So now there's an even tighter bond. And because everybody in there I have personally communicated with, it's a curated crowd that I know would compliment. If I got some jackass, and we've had a few jackasses going, well, I sell insurance or I sell, used cars. I want to come to, and we're like, no, there's the refund. So we make sure that everyone that comes into that room can connect. We then get them all unilaterally uncomfortable, and we then install an experience and an education into them so that when you leave the room, you've now grown a bigger family. One of the things that have come out of it, which I keep hearing, is that they've now got a support mechanism. They've got people that both engaged in the same experience that they can now communicate with, that they never would have spoken with in their life because they're from different industries or different cities, but they now have a grown group of tribe that are there to support each other. And I love sitting there and watching all the conversations happening between people that never would have conversed with each other.
That's awesome. The best part about it all that I love is it wasn't a business plan. There was no business plan when this began. And now look, it's probably, one of your favorite things and probably, some of your clients' favorite things to do is a speakeasy. Yeah,
it wasn't, it literally started as a way of me escaping from my daughter for 2 days and has now just turned into, and I'll be honest with you, as I say, the next one's in a couple of weeks' time. I get scared now. I actually get scared because while everyone's turning up, trusting that I'm going to shake them up, okay, I've now got to perform. Yeah. And so whereas I first thought to myself, this is ridiculous, I'm getting paid $2,000 and I have no liability. It's not like me saying, Elton John's going to turn up and then he doesn't. You don't know who's going to turn up, but I still need to impress you and motivate and educate, and I need to inspire. I need to do all of these things. So I get very, very nervous. It's like me stepping into a boxing ring. I know I'm able. I know I can handle it, but I still get nervous before. And I'm 2 weeks away, and I'm telling you quite openly, my night's sleep is getting shorter. I wake up in the morning going, crap, did we do this? I had a nightmare the other day that all of this nightmare came, and nightmares are always very vivid, aren't they? I woke up to this dream that someone had opened up another event and had taken all of my speakers into that event.
There you go.
And I woke up, when you get those dreams when you think you're awake, but then you wake up and you realize you weren't. I had this dream that I woke up, looked at my emails, and they had all canceled. And then I suddenly woke up and I went like 200 miles an hour to my computer to see if this was true. Were those emails there? So, yeah, I'm getting a little bit scared and nervous now.
But looking at your past and everything you've done in your life, I have a feeling that that's kind of part of why you enjoy it. I think that's part of the excitement. That's part of the thrill. So as much as, yes, as you start to get close to it, you start second guessing and having that little bit of anxiety, but that's part of it, right? That's part of the adrenaline rush. So I think that's part of why it's successful, is because of that. That is awesome.
Laura, I get the way you're so natural on this podcast. I'm sure you've spoken on stages before.
I have.
Okay. Do you get nervous just before you go on stage?
I get more nervous leading up to the event, but the minute I get on the stage, I'm good.
And that's the same as the ring. But
Yep.
I think it's, and I don't want to blow our own trumpet, but I think that's what makes us good. Because getting nervous is because you're getting your entire body engaged into the next minute. When you step on stage, I'm here, let's get going. But those few moments before, if you catch me behind, well, for start, if you ever see me behind stage just before I'm about to go on, don't talk to me, because I've got the headphones in and I've got some Guns N' Roses or some Foo Fighters going through it, and I'm blasted. And so many times I've got to, Steve, you're on. And the plugs have come out and I walk on stage because I get very nervous just before anything. And I always say that it's that kind of anticipation.
It is.
Maybe not fear, but it's that kind of like, and you're alive.
That's right.
You know what they say, Steve, is if you think about it, nerves and excitement are all the exact same body response.
That's right.
You get sweaty palms, you get rapid heartbeat. So you may think you're nervous, but all you have to do is tweak your mind to believe you're excited. And then, like you said, as soon as you get on the stage, you realize you were excited. You know, and that's, I think a lot of people that are listening could probably take away from that is when you really sit down and think about it, the next time you're fearful or nervous, you think about it, it's the same exact reaction you have when you're excited.
You're right.
When the
That's
Dodgers,
a very good point.
When the Dodgers are about ready to win the World Series, I had sweaty palms, nervous stomach. It's the same thing. I was excited, that they're about to win the World Series. So, that's something that people could take away that get on the stage.
All right, well, Steve. Let's hear. How can everyone connect to you? How can they learn more about all of these amazing things? And certainly for everyone in the mortgage and real estate business out there, his book is a must read. I read it. I truly enjoyed it. It's a very nice, enjoyable, smooth book, meaning that you get through it in one sitting and you don't want to put it down. So definitely highly encourage everyone out there to read it. But what other ways can they contact you? Of course, you're on every social media platform as Steve D. Sims. So there's one way, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty easy. Probably the best way for you to kind of get to see some of the tone and the voice and the events is I have a very free Facebook group. And I say very free because it won't click you into a funnel. An Entrepreneur's Advantage with Steve Sims. That's my complimentary Facebook group. But you can jump on a Sims Distillery to join my inner circle, which will get you into my private Speakeasy Facebook group. But Steve D. Sims on everything, Instagram, Twitter, everywhere. Steve D. Sims, only one M in Sims, or join steveDsims.com, join the email list and get my emails.
And I will say he's a great follow on Facebook, not just for the business aspects, but, post about, like when his neighbors have yard sales that are famous and, really gum up traffic in the neighborhood.
Yeah, I just like to post anything. People, the common question you get, what should I post and how often should I post? Anything that makes me grin, I'll post it. If it's a celebrity yard sale, if it's a great old fashioned I made, if I'm barbecuing and I've burnt something, I just like to post.
Awesome. All right, Steve. Well, hey, it's been an honor to have you on again. I definitely appreciate your time. And I do want to tell everybody we are going to be having another Bypass the Bullshit training coming up. And Steve will be our coach. So I suggest if you're listening to this, get in on that because you don't want to miss sitting down for 90 minutes with Steve and doing some deep dive training. So that'll be a great experience for everybody.
Thanks, man.
All right. Thanks a lot.